Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we've got something a bit different for you today. The puzzle on screen is a snake egg star battle puzzle. What is one of those, I hear you ask? Well, that's a very good question. I will explain all, but it's by JinHoo Ahn, and it is a puzzle that has been sent in to us by gmpuzzles.com, which is a website that I recommend wholeheartedly. It's basically a puzzle site created by a couple of friends of mine, Thomas Snyder and Serkan Yürekli. Thomas, of course, was the three-time World Sudoku champion and also former World Puzzle champion. And Serkan has been one of the great constructors on the world puzzle scene for, well, at least a decade. And anyway, over on GM Puzzles, you can they release puzzles, or you can subscribe to their puzzle site by seasons, and I think each season lasts about 13 weeks from memory, and every day of the season you get two puzzles. You get sort of an easy puzzle and a more involved puzzle, and these are all obviously handcrafted by some of the great and the good of the puzzle community. So I think a lot of overlap between what viewers of Cracking the Cryptic enjoy and what GM Puzzles tends to produce. So it may well be worth you all having a look over there and seeing what you think. Anyway, in the lead up to each of their seasons, they have a free week where you can play the puzzles free for a week. So they release a puzzle every day that you can have a go at. And they thought that it would be nice if we did a puzzle. I don't think this was one of the free puzzles, actually. I think this is just a splendid different puzzle by JinHoo, and it's it's a ludicrously good rule set, this one, based on sort of snake egg logic. And those of you who've done our Patreon reward this month will be very familiar with snake eggs. And you can see there's not a great deal in this grid. Three dots, and yeah, okay, and it's a slightly different size to Sudoku. Anyway, this is what we're going to have a go. I'll tell you more about it. If you're interested in gmpuzzles.com, I'll put a link under the video, and I'll read the rules of this in a moment or two's time. What else do I want to tell you about, though, before we kick off? I have got some announcements, birthdays, and all sorts of other things going on today. But you've got a couple of days left to enter our competition, our monthly competition over on Patreon. So do check that out soon. Philip Bloomer, aka Glum Hippo's Snake Egg Sudoku Hunt. There are some fine puzzles in there, I can tell you, and we've had hundreds and hundreds of correct entries. So, but if you're still working on the last couple of puzzles, do try and get your entry in soon. You've got until the 20th, so just a couple of days left. That aside, let me say a few things about some of our viewers. I'm going to firstly give a shout out to Andrew. Andrew has had a couple of major surgeries this week. Andrew is 21 years old over there in the US, and says that sort of our videos have helped to distract a little bit from dealing with the aftermath of the operation. So Andrew, thank you very much for taking the time to write to us, especially in your current condition. I hope all is going well with your recuperation. All the best, my friend. Next, some birthdays. In fact, no, I'm going to skip down. I'm going to skip down my list, and I'm going to start off not with a birthday, but with a wedding, because today it is the wedding day of Mackenzie and Jack, who've been together for 7 years. And Jack wrote in and said, Mackenzie, you might appreciate a shout out on your wedding day, and in fact, this shout out might be your favourite present. I hope it is. No, I hope it's not. What a ludicrous thing to say. I hope it isn't. I hope you get Ferraris and all sorts of other things. Other cars are available. But Mackenzie and Jack, many congratulations on your wedding day today. I hope you get good weather, and I know you're going to have a nice cake. Now, other things are birthday related, I think. So let's do James. It's your birthday, and I know this because your partner Dax wrote and said that you watch the channel religiously. So James, thank you for watching religiously, and I hope you have a great day with chocolate cake, of course. Next, Laurel, it's your 24th birthday, and I know this because your best friend Gail wrote to us. I think you might know her better as Bungie. And you've been friends for 18 years, and you're like sisters, apparently. And you even watched Cracking the Cryptic instead of the Super Bowl. Well, that is praise indeed, isn't it? Maybe we could get a slot. It's Super in the middle of the Super Bowl. Don't they have rock music? Perhaps they could have, a quick bit of Sudoku solving one year. I'm sure that would be very, very popular indeed. Anyway, happy birthday, Laurel. Nathan, it's your birthday today. And I know this because your wife Kate wrote to us and told us that it was your birthday. And apparently you find my chanting of numbers soothing. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't actually think there are any numbers in today's puzzle, so I'm not sure whether today's video will be quite so soothing, but I'm sure it'll be a good puzzle anyway. Nathan, happy birthday. And then finally, Puck. Puck, you've turned 27 over there in Minnesota. And I'm not sure you're going to get this message today because I understand you may have driven to Arizona to spend a month sheep herding for native families. What an incredible thing to do. So Puck, whenever you get the message, happy birthday. You sound like you are living life to the full, which I am delighted to hear. Now, that's all the news. Let's have a look at Snake Egg Star Battle by JinHoo Ahn. These are the rules of this puzzle. We have to draw a snake, which is a 1-cell wide path in the grid. The snake can touch itself diagonally, but cannot touch itself orthogonally or revisit any square. Right. The grid already provides some of these diagonal touching points as grey circles. Wow, okay, so what does that mean? I'm not even going to attempt to work out what that means. That feels complicated to me. Anyway, we have to draw a snake somehow. And the snake can touch itself diagonally, so let me at least try and achieve that. There, that's a snake that's touched itself diagonally. Okay. Now here is where it gets very interesting, because it then says the remaining cells, brackets not occupied by the snake, must then form a star battle puzzle, i.e. there must be 2 stars in every row, column and region divided by the snake's body. Stars cannot be placed in adjacent cells that share an edge or a corner. So that is normal star battle logic. Let's extend my snake. So we've got that's a much bigger snake, isn't it? Now, so let's think about the rules in the context of the star battle piece of this. So what it says is, basically in the white cells in this diagram, we have to place stars, but we can't put more than 2 stars in any white region. And we have to fill the stars in such that there are 2 stars in every, so maybe they could be stars in column 10 it would be, wouldn't it? Although no, that wouldn't work, because I can see immediately I couldn't put 2 stars in column 9. In fact, I can't. In fact, I've still not achieved what. So we could do something. Oh no, hang on, this doesn't work at all because I've got more than 2 stars in this region now. So whatever I've drawn here is total nonsense. Oh, hang on, I could extend that because the snake's allowed to touch itself. Right, now I've got a region here. Now I could put a star there. So you can see it's already quite interesting. Oh, this is broken down here though, because now I've got 3 stars in one white region, and I'm only meant to have 2. But I needed a 2nd star in column 9. So you can already see we can already see just from the weird example I've drawn that there's all sorts of tensions arising from in the grid. I have not got a Scooby-Doo how difficult this is. GM puzzles, they vary a lot. As I mentioned earlier, there's always an easy one every day, but the harder ones, I think they get harder during the week, although that might... No, I'm not even sure that's true. I know sometimes they publish Sunday Stumpers, which are very difficult, and we've done some of those on the channel before. But I don't know whether this is a Sunday Stumper or not, but do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now, I get to play. Let's get cracking in the absence of anything else, we presumably have to look at these cells, which are diagonal touching points of the snake. So, right, okay, so what that is actually telling us is that there is a... I can actually sort of see what this is doing, in the sense that how can there be a diagonal touching point of the snake here? The only way, I'm going to claim, so let's put in, so what that's saying is that those two cells are snake, but these two cells are not snake. In other words, there is definitely a head or a tail of the snake in this 2x2, because this section, if green is my snake, so let's have a grass snake today. So this grass snake here is that's its head or its tail, isn't it? And obviously it could be the other way round. If we drew the grass snake like that, it's the same thing. That square there has to be the head or tail of the snake. Now, that logic must apply in this 2x2 and this 2x2, because whichever of these is snake will also be a head or a tail, because it can't bump into the other corner of its diagonal. So that means that maybe it's that one we have to look at then, because what that means is that the head and the tail of the snake, well, let's label it. So let's make this the head. So there's a head in one of those and there's a tail in one of those now. That is just true. So there is no head and no tail up here, which means that there are two corners of the snake up here, doesn't it? So that means, for example, if these two cells were snake, then because neither of these can be a head or a tail, they would have to be corners, so the snake would be doing this. That looks fine, actually. There was the only thought I had there as I looked at that is that this cell is clearly part of a white area, or a sort of non-snake area. This is a snake egg, to use terminology that Glum Hippo would be proud of. And that needs to contain two stars, doesn't it, according to the rules? Now, maybe it's just worth mentioning that there are secrets to do with star battle puzzles. And that, well, the main secret to do with star battle puzzles is that in any 2x2 area, you can only put one star. And that's hopefully obvious. I mean, if you put a star here, because you can never have stars that touch one another even diagonally, if you put a star there, you clearly can't have a star in those three squares. So one thing we might want to bear in mind in this puzzle is if we highlight a complete row of the grid like that, there are 5 2x2s, aren't there? And we know that there are 4 stars to be put in 2 rows of the grid. So only one of these 2x2s could be empty. A maximum of one of them. Or exactly one of them, I suppose. I'm not sure if that's important. It could be. I just thought I'd mention it because I was thinking that this region has to... If this was the way that the snake went, this region would have to get quite a bit bigger, because in those 3 squares you could only put 1 star. So it would actually... So the snake would have to turn. Let's just have a look at it the other way round. If we do that and that... Ah, right, it's better this way round. Yes, okay, so I can rule that out. Because, how could this be? The snake is not allowed to touch itself orthogonally, so it doesn't go here. And that means that this end, which is a snake end, because the head and the tail are down here somewhere, has to go up. And the further, that's the most white space I can possibly create. And that's if I sort of keep the snake away from itself as much as I can. And that leaves behind a domino, into which I could put exactly 1 star, but I have to put 2 stars into every white area. So that's wrong. So that's great. So actually we do this. That is how the puzzle starts. So that, right, so this, let's label that yellow. That, and that all have to be part of a snake egg, and i.e. they have to be snake-less. But that area has to extend to at least here. This has to be green. This has to be yellow. This is, oh, okay, so we're going to actually be able to build regions. Look, we can just keep this going. Now, but now this could turn up, because it is possible to put 2 stars. You could put a star there and then 1 in, well, if you put a star there, you put 1 in one of those 2 squares. So, okay, but this isn't a snake end, is it? Isn't the head or the tail, so the snake must turn. It can't bump into a corner. The snake must continue. That's not an end. That must continue. You can't put 2 stars into a domino, so that must grow, which means this all becomes snake. That's got to be not snake, otherwise the snake will touch itself as it turns. So these 2 squares are both snake. That's got to grow, otherwise we'd have to put 2 stars into a domino. And all of a sudden, my snake is growing. No jokes. Now, there we go. So now we can... Now we can what? Well, I don't know. Ah, sorry. No, I've not got, not seeing anything there. Can we... I don't know. I don't know if we can... I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can go much further than that. We can probably at least think about it. It looks worse that way round to me, if this is the head, because this might bump into the tail. Well, okay, yes. So that would have to look like this, wouldn't it? Because, sorry, I'm looking at this. I'm wondering whether this is the configuration of the head, and I'm noticing that if that is the case, this can't be the tail, because that would cause this to be a corner, and that's definitely not a snake we're building. So actually, if this is correct, you have to do that and that. But now... Right, so this isn't right. Right, so this isn't right. That is true. This is wrong. Because where does this go? It's got to... It can't bump into the head, because to do so it would touch itself here. So it has to bump into this end, this tail. But this has to be big enough that I can put 2 stars into it. And I can't go here, because I can't put 2 stars into that white square. So I'm completely zugzwanged, basically. There's just no way. I mean, it's not even close, actually. I could make enough room for 2 stars in the bottom row, but I definitely can't make this big enough to have 2 stars in it. Right. Okay, well, that's good, because that means we can say that we can do this, and these 2 are both yellow. This has to grow. Yellow has to be at least 3 cells. Like, we can't fit 2 stars into a domino. Now, can we do... bobbins? Oh, no, this is much more obvious. Right, okay, very clever. We can't do this. Because this head end here and this tail end have to be kept apart. Otherwise, we're going to have a very short snake. And the only way we can keep them apart would be... Well, there is no way. The tail, one of them is stranded in here. Because to get one of them out is to strand the other. Oh, gorgeous. Right, so we have to do that one and that one. So we've made a bit of a start here now. This is... Well, that's got to be at least 3 cells large. And this can't touch itself. So right, we are off to the races here. This can't only be a domino, so that's got to grow. So this snake comes out here. This has got to be at least 3 cells. So the snake is growing. This must be bigger, because in a 2x2 you can put 1 star. So that's got to get bigger, which means that extends, which means this extends, which means this extends. I can see I can put 2 stars into that region, so that's probably what we have to do next. Let's just keep growing our snake, though. Right. Okay, so these, right, let's get rid of my T nomenclature and my H nomenclature, because we've basically got the head and the tail of the snake now identified. Now, I have to put a star here and a star here, because every yellow region that we find in the puzzle has to have 2 stars in it. So I am going to go to the pen tool, and what colour should we have our stars at? Red. That's rather beautiful. So those are 2 stars. There are no more stars in column 10, because there are 2 stars in every column, every row. You see, and there are weird things I can see here, which I'm probably not going to use, but I will just mention them in case they're relevant. If you look at row 9 of the grid, this row, I could put a star in there. Let's say I do. But actually, that means that neither of these squares can be stars. Because if I was to put a star in either of those 2 squares where I've got the x's in, you couldn't put a star in any of those 3 squares. We know there are no stars in green cells, so you couldn't put 2 stars into row 9. So those 2 squares are not stars. I don't know if that's a useful pencil mark or not. I'm not sure actually. Loud motorcycle. Not heard from Maverick today. Maverick must be grounded. So does it matter that I know I've had my 2 stars in column 10? I mean, I know these squares. The thing is, I don't know. These could be green, but I know that they're not stars. I think what I'm going to do, at least pro tem, is I'm going to... If I know white squares are not stars, I will X them. But obviously I'm not going to X green cells, because they could never be stars. I should also probably X yellow cells that can't be stars, and this can't be a star because it would be too close to that one. Okay, that hasn't... It is fair to say that has not taken me very far forward. That can't be a star. Because if that's a star, I can't put 2 stars in column 1. I can put 1 there, but I couldn't put any in there, so that wouldn't work. So that's also an X. I mean, do I X that just for good order? Maybe I do. Golly, I don't know what to do now. Let me think. I don't know if this is helpful, but I'll mention it. You see the outer ring of snake here, this ring? Well, that's going to connect to that somehow. Because it can't connect to any. If this goes like that, if this end connects to that end, you can't get this out. So somehow or other those two connect, and this can't get past this, can it, and sneak out. So somehow or other those two connect as well. So these two connect and those two connect, but I don't know how. Oh dear. Oh, I don't want to get completely stuck here. There, okay, here's another tiny point, but I'm afraid that's all I've got for you at the moment. There is definitely a star in one of those three squares. At least one of those three squares. If there were... Oh, that's weird. Right. There are not two stars in there. Because if there were two stars in there, these would be yellow, wouldn't they? And because we know this connects to this somehow, don't know how that happens, but that means that these are in the same yellow area with this. This is getting complicated, but I don't think then I can put 4 stars into the bottom 2 rows. So what I'm saying is, if these are both stars, this obviously has to turn. We know this is connecting here somehow, and I don't care how that happens. The point is it can't go through this gap and turn up again. Somehow or other, these two close. Let's close them like that. You can see that this is all one great big yellow area, which can have 2 stars in it. That's a 3rd star in the bottom 2 rows. So you might say, but you could put a star here. Well, I can't put a star there for my 4th star because there would be 3 stars in this row. I can't put a 2nd star in the bottom row is perhaps the easiest way to see it. So that means there is exactly 1 star in one of those squares, and that means that that domino has a star, and that means this cell is not a star, because you can't put, if we were to put a star here, neither of these squares could be a star. This is fascinating because it's suddenly changed its character, the puzzle. It's changed from being a sort of snake drawing puzzle to being a star battle puzzle. So there is 1 star here, 1 star here. And there must be a star. Yeah, okay. So there must be a star in one of these cells as well. So, does that help me? Because I need that's because I need a 2nd star in the bottom row. And wherever the star is here, there's a star there or a star there, don't know which one it is, but that will join the star that lives in this section. So that will be the 2 stars that apply in this bottom region. So no more stars can live in this area, that area there. That has got its 2 stars, but I don't know where they go. Now, what does that mean? And the answer to that is I just don't know, I'm afraid. Ah, right, goodness. This is totally changed its character. Okay, so now I'm going to look at column 1, and I'm going to ask some questions about column 1. Here is my first question. Is it possible to put 2 stars into those 3 squares? And I'm going to claim the answer to that is no. But it's a weird reason. So if I go back here, imagine these were both stars. You can see that if I do that, well, I mean, no, the fundamental point about that is that I've got these 2 are not in different yellow regions, because to be in different yellow regions they would have to be cut by a piece of snake. I'd have to be able to divide these 2 with a snake piece, and I can't. And that means that this one, wherever that goes, which would actually have to be here now, and this one are all in the same yellow region, and that's not allowed by the rules. So actually that's a better way of thinking about that. So in this section of column 1 there is a maximum of 1 star, and that means there is definitely a star up there, which means that's not a star. And that means, where are the stars in column 2? I've only got that region, so I've got to fit a star into each of those dominoes, because we can't put more than 1 star in a domino. And that means that square is not a star now, in white. It doesn't mean, or does it? Does that mean I can make that yellow? No, it doesn't mean that. Because I could turn here and then have the 2 stars in that yellow region into those 2 squares. It means there's 1 star in those 3. But again, I don't know where it is. And if it's in the corner, look, if say it was there, it completes our 2 stars for row 10 and it completes our 2 stars for column 1. So it would sort of do double duty. And then that would be a star. Oh, okay, right. Right. So I think what we have to do now is we have to extrapolate this logic about how many stars can we put in a yellow region. Now, oh no, there's a fly. At least it's not a wasp. I had such trouble with a wasp in the crossword the other day. Yeah, so this region, I don't know what it looks like yet, but there's a yellow region down there that has its 2 stars in it already. So here's a question, I suppose. Is that a star? The answer is no. Because if that's a star, I'd have to divide this snake egg from this snake egg with green, and I can't. So that's definitely not a star. Now, I've got to be very careful here. What I was about to say was not true. I was about to say, could this be a star? And conclude that that's impossible, but I'm not sure that is impossible. Because if that's a star, then in this threesome here, that would be a star. But I could differentiate these with green, because the green could sort of flow through that little gap there. Okay, so I have got to be very careful. Oh, here's a totally different point. Look at it's going to be row 8, isn't it? This row here. I've got one star in it. So there must be a star in this section here. One of those is a star, which means that's not a star. Ah. Oh, hang on. Oh. I haven't worked this out yet, but okay, so this is the thought I'm having now. I've got I've got 2 stars in some yellow region here. I don't know how big that yellow region is, but I've got 2 stars in it. So that must be delineated by snake must cut between this yellow region and this yellow region, or the star that lives in this yellow region. There must be snake that divides those, mustn't there? So yeah, there's all sorts of constraints here. We've got a region here of yellow. Oh, hang on, I had a totally different thought. Sorry, I know my brain's jumping all over the place. But here's another thought. Don't we know how many separate regions of yellow there are in this puzzle? We do. Because how many stars are there in this puzzle? There are 20. There are 10 rows and 10 columns. And into each row I have to put 2 stars. So there are 20 stars to put in, which means there are 10 regions. No, okay, no, that's just too complicated. I suddenly thought maybe I could count the regions and do something with that. No, I'll go back to my other thought then. My other thought is this one. There is some region of yellow down here. That has to be delineated from this region of yellow, and this region of yellow has to be delineated from this region of yellow. Because this is quarate, it's got its 2 stars. This is quarate, it's got its 2 stars. And this... Ah. Oh my goodness me. Right, that's the whole key to the puzzle. I've done it. This is ludicrously clever. This is ludicrously clever setting. If this is what you're meant to do to solve this puzzle, then JinHoo Ahn needs to take a bow, because I'm slightly worried there might be something easier than what I've just seen. But this is so beautiful, I really hope there isn't. Here is my next question. So I was worrying about how I delineate this from this from this. I don't think that's the question, actually. The question I now want to ask is, how does this area, which has got 1 star in it, get a 2nd star? That's the question I want to ask. Because remember what we said. We said, correctly I think, that this strand here of snake connects to this strand of snake somehow. Now, when I connect these 2 snake bits up, I am going to cap the size of this yellow region, because let's say I do it like that. That's giving this as much space as it could have, isn't it? To do it like that. That's the biggest I could make this region. That's got this 1 star in it. Where does it get its 2nd star? If I make this as big as possible, where does this get its 2nd star from? I think it's there. I don't think it can be anywhere else. So imagine this square was snake for a moment. And then we try and make this as big as possible. Well, now, we know there's only 1 star here, because otherwise we'd have more than 1 star in the bottom, in row 8. this yellow region we know has to be delineated from this yellow region by some closure of this. And this can't get a second star. There is just no room for it. And if that is true, that means this, well, there's only one way to close this snake, and it's with an S. S for Superman, Snake X Star Battle. So that, I think that means that's a snake. I think that being a snake, sorry, that being a star, did I say snake? That means that's a star, which means it's yellow, which means this comes up here, but we know this has to close to here, so we have to do that. And now, well, now, that being a star tells us that these two squares are not star, which means I have to put a star there to get my second star into row 8. And that means that this is yellow. We can't break up this party, so that's yellow. This has to be green. This has to be green. And now that has to be the star, in the second star in row 9. We know that that joins up to a star at the bottom of the grid that's somewhere, don't we? Because this is all part of a 2-star region. So that must be actually, I don't know if I know where that goes. I'll think about that in a moment. But the green area has to get out. Don't know what that means. That probably means something. This can't be a star now, so that's a star. And so we can do the stars in column 2. They have to be there and there. Now, how does this snake here, does it go there or does it go there? How do we know which of those it's meant to do? That is a question I don't know the answer to yet. Although I feel like I probably am meant to know the answer, because I'm struggling to see. Oh look, we need 2 stars in this row. There's got to be a star here. Well, yeah, okay. That's now got this. Oh, hang on. This cell here has to be yellow. Otherwise the snake's going to run into itself. So that's green. There's not enough room in here for 2. Oh, why is it doing that? Oh, have I got it? I think I've got it on some weird setting. There's only one snake, 1 star possible there, so that grows, so that goes green. These are part of the same region. These 2 are definitely not snakes, so they're definitely yellow. I can't see how I'm meant to know whether this... I know I'm being daft here. I know I'm being daft here, but I can't see how I'm meant to know. If that leaves behind a region which has got snake 2 cells in it. I'm worried about this. How do we do that? Oh, of course. Yeah, I do know how to do it. Because if that was yellow, it would join this region to that region. So that's definitely green. Oh, I'm pleased about that because I was having a complete brain failure there as to how that was going to work. All right, so now, look, we're slowly... We're slowly getting there. This is definitely not snake. So my last piece, sorry, egg. So my last egg in row 10, well, I think it could be in a lot of different places. Okay, so probably I'm meant to look at this now, which has to get considerably... Oh, look, that's straight away, does it? This has to get considerably bigger, because I've got to put snake, I've got to put stars in it. So it goes at least to there, and it can't go to here. Actually, no, it can't. I suddenly had a moment of brain failure there, but no, that's true. It can't go there for a good reason, which is now, how would I put 2 stars into row, whatever that is, row 5? Because this can't be a star. I couldn't put a star in any of those because I've got my 2 stars in this yellow region, and that would be the only place for a star. So that is green. That is therefore green, extending the snake. That's yellow. Now let's try and work out what happens next. So, okay, let's X that square in. I can see I've got to put 2 stars into row 5. That's not a star, so this has to grow a bit bigger. I have only got 1 star at the moment in column 3, but this could be a star up here. So I don't think we can do that. These 2 are definitely not stars. So, oh, where's my second star in row 6? It's got to go there. So that's not a star. This has to extend, doesn't it? So that's got to be green. So that's closed. That's closed the loop. Now, I wonder. Yeah. I mean, if this is yellow, let's just make that yellow for a moment. How many stars can I now put into row 3? Remembering this is a star, I could only put 1 in this region. And that couldn't be in a different region, so that just doesn't work. There's not enough space. And that means that square's green, and that is therefore a corner of the snake. And that means I can do that. And that means that's definitely yellow. And that is actually a gorgeous cell to be yellow. Because remember what we said right at the start about 2 by 2s? Well, that's not big enough to contain 2 to contain 2 stars. So that must be yellow. And therefore all of that is yellow. And that's green. And now, well, now there's definitely a second star in this L pentomino. There's got to be 2 stars in this snake. Oh, this snake egg. Oh, that's remarkably underpowered. That didn't do anything. I suppose it gives me an X there. Oh, they've got to be 2 stars in row 3, so they've got to be there and there. So these squares are both X's. Where's my second star in row 2? It's got to be here. So these, that extends that yellow region at the top. Look, it needs a second star. So that extends my green region here. Oh, here's a point. Right, if this green region doesn't go into the top row and closes, then in the top 2 rows I've got 1 region of yellow, into which I could only put 2 stars, but there must be 4 stars in the top 2 rows. So I can't, so that's yellow, and that causes the snake to do that. Now, okay, so now this is a star, because that region's got to have 2 stars in it. This is now not a star at the bottom. This is a star. So I've now got, oh look, I've now got 2 stars in whatever column that is. So that's a star, that's a star. I've got like a 2 by 2 of, oh, that's good. That's good, because where's my second star in this column now? It's there. And that finishes the bottom row. This is not a star by 2 stars being in that column. I need a second star in this column, and this is right, isn't it? It must be right, because it's working. That's the second star in row 2. So all we've got to do now is, well, let's get rid of all the x's. What a brilliant puzzle, by the way. Just weird magical logic. Weird and magical logic. Right, there we go. So, have we got 2 stars in every yellow region? I am going to claim yes. Do the stars touch one another? I am going to claim no. Have we got 2 stars in every row, column, and column? Yes. Have we got 1 snake? Yes. Does the snake touch itself diagonally at the correct points? Yes, so that's right, I think. Oh, this doesn't quite look right. Puzzle doesn't... Oh, okay. Right, so the puzzle doesn't include a solution. Right, that's because this software is set up for Sudokus. And Sven Software will have been testing whether there is... maybe, I don't know, a 1 to 10 in every row, column and box. Right, so how are we going to do this? I think this solution is correct. But what we'll do is we'll put some instructions under the video. So maybe if I was to replace these cells here, maybe we'll make these 1s and the rest of the grid 0s. Or no, we didn't have, if we just make those all 1s, and then we test whether... And then, so if you solve it, it'll say under the video, if you put 1s in your stars, it will test that, and that then should give you a correct or not answer. Wow, well, that's just brilliant. JinHoo Ahn, take a bow. I loved that. I hope this cell was the most amazing one for me, whatever that is, row 7, column 5. If that is how you were meant to solve it, I'd love to know, because I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Just a beautiful, beautiful bit of logic. And I look forward to reading the comments. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.